Let me ask you a question. In fact, let me ask you the two great questions of life. First, what will you do with the storms? And second, what will you do with the seeds, the soil, and the sunshine? You see, life will test you. That is not a warning, it is a promise. It will not test you once, not twice, but over and over again. The winds of challenge, the winters of disappointment, the storms of circumstance, they will blow against every single one of us. The same winds blow on us all. The wind of disaster, the wind of opportunity, the wind of change. It is not the blowing of the wind that determines your destination. It is the set of the sail. Most people, when the gales of pressure hit, they let the wind take them wherever it may. They react, they panic, they make decisions born of fear, not of faith. They let their emotions grab the rudder of their life and steer them straight into the rocks. And what happens? They are left with the bitter taste of regret. Regret for their words, their actions, and the wreckage they left behind. But then there are those few, the ones who seem unshaken, the ones who, when the storm hits, calmly walk to the helm, check their compass, and adjust their sails. They move with a quiet confidence. They think with startling clarity. They make decisions that lead them not backward into the storm, but forward toward the harbor of their own design. These people are not special. They possess no superhuman abilities. They have simply learned one of the fundamental disciplines of a successful life. They have trained their minds. They have practiced in the calm how to behave in the storm. They have developed the mental fortitude to stay composed, to breathe, and to focus on the set of their sail, not the size of the waves. And the best part of this extraordinary skill, it is learnable. You can train yourself to do the same. Imagine having the ability to face any challenge without losing your inner peace. Imagine handling conflict, stress, and uncertainty with a deep and abiding confidence. That is what we are here to discuss today. This is not merely about surviving stress. It is about mastering it. It's about learning to use the winds of pressure to get you where you want to go faster. So stay with me. For the next hour, we will embark on a journey. I will share with you the philosophies, the strategies, and the mindset shifts that will make you mentally unshakable. Let us begin. Let us begin our journey together by exploring the first and perhaps the most fundamental of all life's disciplines, the understanding of the mind under pressure. For if you do not understand the nature of the force that acts upon you, how can you ever hope to master it? The first step in achieving any great success is to understand its nature. The first step in building a skyscraper is to understand the ground upon which it will stand. And the first step in building an unshakable life is to understand the nature of the mind itself. You must accept this foundational truth. Pressure in and of itself does not possess the power to break you. The challenges, the setbacks, the crises of life, they are powerless over your inner world. It is your reaction to these things that holds all the power. It is the story you tell yourself about the event that either shatters you or strengthens you. Stressful situations are not the enemy. Let me repeat that, for this is a philosophy you must absorb into the very marrow of your bones. A difficult economy is not the enemy. A demanding client is not the enemy. An unexpected bill is not the enemy. These things are simply the weather of life. They are the inevitable seasons. And you cannot control the seasons, can you? You cannot negotiate with winter. You cannot reason with a thunderstorm. It is your mind's interpretation of the weather that creates either panic or composure. The difference between the person who crumbles under the first sign of frost and the person who thrives in the heart of the storm is not found in their intelligence, not in their talent, and certainly not in their luck. The difference is found in their philosophy. It is found in their ability to maintain sovereignty over their own mind when everything in the external world is in chaos. Think about this. The same rain that falls on the farmer's field, who sees it as a blessing, a life-giving force that will nourish his crops, also falls on the tourist's vacation, who sees it as a curse, a ruinous event that has spoiled his plans. The rain is the same. The event is neutral. The only thing that changed was the perspective, the interpretation, the meaning assigned to it. This is the first great power you possess. The power to choose your philosophy. The power to decide what an event will mean to you. Now, why is this so difficult? Why do most people feel like they are victims of circumstance, tossed about by the winds of pressure? It is because they do not understand the machine they are operating. They are living with an ancient piece of equipment in a thoroughly modern world. Have you ever noticed how some individuals can navigate the most high-pressure situations with an almost supernatural ease, while others completely fall apart at the slightest inconvenience? Think of an air traffic controller on a foggy night, calmly guiding dozens of planes carrying thousands of souls. Think of a master surgeon, hands steady, mind clear, with a human life resting on their next decision. Think of a firefighter making a split-second choice in a blazing inferno. These professionals do not panic, not because they are without fear, not because they don't feel the immense, crushing weight of the moment. They remain in control because they have disciplined themselves. They have trained hour after hour, day after day, to override their automatic, primitive, and often disastrous initial response. To understand this, you must understand the history of your own mind. The human brain is a magnificent machine, a marvel of evolution, but we must be honest about what it was designed for. It was designed for survival in the jungle, not for navigating the complexities of a quarterly business review or a heated family argument. Your brain is wired for a world of immediate physical threats. It is wired to deal with the saber-toothed tiger. And deep within the oldest part of your brain is a sentinel, a tiny, almond-shaped alarm system called the amygdala. For thousands of years, the sole job of this sentinel has been to scan the environment for one thing and one thing only: danger. And when it perceives a threat, it does not pause to think. It does not consult with your rational mind. It pulls a fire alarm. The moment your brain perceives a threat, any threat, it defaults to what scientists call the fight or flight response. It is a primitive, powerful, and instantaneous survival mechanism. Imagine our ancestor walking through the tall grass. Suddenly, he hears a rustle. He sees a flash of orange and black. The tiger. Instantly, his amygdala sounds the alarm. It floods his body with a powerful cocktail of stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline. His heart begins to pound like a war drum, pumping blood to his muscles. His breathing becomes rapid and shallow, sucking in oxygen for the coming exertion. His pupils dilate, sharpening his vision. His digestion shuts down. All non-essential systems go offline. In that moment, his brain is no longer prioritizing logical clarity. It is prioritizing raw, explosive survival. It screams one of two commands: fight for your life or run for your life. And this magnificent system is why you are here today. It worked. It kept our ancestors alive in a world filled with teeth and claws. But here we are now, thousands of years later, living in a world of deadlines and data, of traffic jams and text messages. And here is the fundamental problem of modern life. Most of the stress we face today is not a saber-toothed tiger. Your boss sends you a sharply worded email. The tiger alarm goes off. You get stuck in traffic and you're late for a meeting. The tiger alarm goes off. You have a difficult conversation with your spouse about finances. The tiger alarm goes off. Your ancient brain cannot tell the difference between a real threat to your survival and a perceived threat to your ego, your schedule, or your comfort. The physiological response is almost identical. Your heart races, your breathing quickens, your muscles tense, and your rational mind, the calm, wise captain of your ship, is shoved aside by a panicked, screaming crew member. This is what it means to have your thinking hijacked by stress. It is why we make foolish, short-sighted, impulsive decisions under pressure. It is why we say things in the heat of anger that we can never, ever take back. It is why we freeze up and fail to act when opportunity presents itself, paralyzed by a fear that is nothing more than a ghost, a false signal from an outdated system. We are using ancient tools to solve modern problems, and the results are often disastrous. We are bringing jungle instincts to the boardroom, and it is costing us our success, our relationships, and our peace of mind. The price of this unconscious reaction is immense. Think of the opportunities lost, not because you weren't capable, but because fear made you hesitate. Think of the relationships damaged, not because you didn't care, but because anger spoke before wisdom could intervene. Think of the years of chronic, low-grade stress, slowly poisoning your health, all because your body is constantly preparing for a physical fight that never comes. This is the heavy cost of living on autopilot. It is a life of accidental self-sabotage. So, what is the answer? We cannot remove this ancient system. It is part of us. The answer then is not to remove it, but to become its master. The key to handling pressure is to rise above your own primitive programming. It begins with awareness. The moment stress arises, the moment you feel that familiar tightening in your chest, that heat rising in your face, that is your moment of power. That is the signal. A trained mind, a disciplined mind, recognizes that signal not as a command to panic, but as a call to awareness. You must train yourself to pause, to step back, and to observe what is happening within you. To say to yourself, there it is. That is the tiger alarm. That is simply my ancient brain doing what it was designed to do. But there is no tiger here. I am safe, and I am in charge now. That small gap you create, that tiny, precious space between the event and your response, that is where your freedom lies. That is where your power is born. In that space, you have the opportunity to choose. You can choose to let the ancient panicked voice scream and dictate your actions. Or you can choose to listen to the voice of reason, of wisdom, of your higher self. It is the space where you choose logic over impulse, where you choose construction over destruction. And once you have created that space, you can employ another powerful tool. You must reframe the feeling. You must change the label you assign to it. Because what is stress? It is energy. It is your body preparing for a high-performance event. It is preparation, not panic. A great surgeon about to perform a complex, life-saving operation feels that surge of adrenaline, but they do not call it fear. They call it focus. A world-class musician about to walk onto a stage in front of thousands feels their heart pounding, but they do not call it nervousness. They call it energy. An elite athlete standing on the starting line of the most important race of their life feels that same sensation. They call it game day excitement. They have trained themselves to interpret that feeling not as a threat, but as a resource. They know that this is the feeling that will sharpen their senses, quicken their reflexes, and allow them to perform at their absolute best. This is a skill you must learn. When you start to see that internal feeling of stress as a sign that your body is giving you the energy and focus to perform at your best, you stop fearing it. You start welcoming it. You learn to use it. You learn to ride the wave of adrenaline instead of being drowned by it. You learn to turn the poison into your medicine. Understand this. Your ability to remain calm under pressure is not a gift. It is a skill. And like any skill, like learning to play the piano or learning to speak a new language, it must be practiced. It is a muscle. You are building a new neural pathway in your brain. And the more you train yourself to recognize stress, to pause, and to respond with intention, the stronger that mental muscle becomes. The goal is not to create a life free of pressure. That is a fantasy. That is not the nature of a meaningful life. The storms will always come. The winds of circumstance will always blow. The goal is to become a master sailor. The goal is to transform how you meet the storms. To learn to set your sail in such a way that the very winds that would have destroyed you now propel you forward faster and with greater purpose than you ever thought possible. This is the first step. This is the foundation. To understand that the battle is not outside of you. The battle is within you. And it is a battle you can win, not through force, but through wisdom, through practice, and through discipline. Now that we have laid this foundation, we can begin to build upon it by learning to master the very fuel of this ancient system, our emotions. And so, having understood the nature of the machine, this ancient, magnificent, and often misguided mind of ours, we arrive at the next great challenge and the next great opportunity. We arrive at the question of emotion. Emotions are one of the truly great forces of life, are they not? Like the wind, they can be a gentle breeze that cools and comforts, or they can be a raging hurricane that leaves a path of utter devastation. Like fire, they can be a warm hearth that provides light and sustenance, or they can be an uncontrollable wildfire that consumes everything in its path. To be without emotion is to be without life itself. To be without passion, without joy, without the sting of sorrow or the fire of righteous anger, that is not a life to be desired. That is the existence of a stone. The great error in philosophy is not to wish for a life without emotion. The great challenge of life is to learn to become the master of this incredible force. The difference between those who succeed in life and those who merely survive it is not the absence of emotion. Oh no, the most successful people I have ever met are people of profound passion and deep feeling. The difference lies in their ability to manage their emotions. Emotional control is an art. It is perhaps the highest of the human arts. And those who master it, those who learn to harness this fire instead of being burned by it, gain an extraordinary, almost unfair advantage in every single aspect of their lives. To truly understand this art, we must begin with a simple yet profound metaphor. Imagine that within you, at all times, there are two distinct beings. There is the child and there is the adult. The child is the source of your emotions. It is the voice of that ancient brain we just discussed. It is vibrant, passionate, spontaneous, and lives completely in the present moment. The child feels things with incredible intensity. It is the source of your creativity, your joy, your energy. When you laugh until you cry, that is the child. When you are filled with a sudden unexplainable sense of wonder, that is the child. It is the engine of your car, the fire in your furnace. It is a beautiful, powerful, and absolutely vital part of who you are. But the child is also a child. It is impulsive. It is reactive. It sees the world in black and white, in terms of pleasure and pain. It has no concept of long-term consequences. When it is hurt, it screams. When it is frightened, it hides or it lashes out. When it wants something, it wants it now. And then there is the adult. The adult is your rational mind. It is your wisdom, your discipline, your foresight. The adult is the part of you that can see the bigger picture. It understands cause and effect. It can weigh options, make strategic decisions, and delay gratification for a greater future reward. The adult is the calm, steady hand on the steering wheel, the wise captain of the ship. Here is the fundamental drama of human existence, played out inside of you every single day. Who is in charge? In most people's lives, the child is in charge. They live in a state of emotional reaction. They allow the vibrant but unruly child to drive the car of their life. And what happens when you let a child drive a car? A crash. It is inevitable. They let anger grab the steering wheel and swerve into oncoming traffic. They let anxiety slam on the brakes in the middle of the highway, causing a pileup of missed opportunities. They let frustration and impatience dictate the destination, and they inevitably end up lost, stranded, and surrounded by the wreckage of their own poor choices. And the greatest mistake they make, the mistake that perpetuates this entire cycle of chaos, is this: they assume their emotions are facts. They believe every single thing the child in the back seat tells them. They treat the child's feelings as an accurate report of reality. This is a catastrophic error in judgment. Just because you feel something does not make it true. This is one of the most liberating philosophies you can ever embrace. Feeling afraid does not mean you are in danger. The child screams in fear before a public speech. The adult knows this is not a tiger, it is an opportunity. Feeling overwhelmed does not mean you are incapable. The child looks at a large project and wails that it is impossible. The adult knows it is just a series of small, manageable steps. Feeling angry does not mean you have been unjustly attacked. The child feels slighted by a casual comment and demands retribution. The adult knows it may be a simple misunderstanding or perhaps a reflection of the other person's own struggles. Feeling hopeless does not mean your situation is without hope. The child sees a setback and declares that all is lost. The adult knows that winter is just a season and that spring will inevitably follow. Your emotions are not commands. They are not scripture. They are signals. They are data. They are simply the child in the back seat pointing at something and making noise. The key to emotional control, the very essence of this art, is learning to become a wise interpreter of these signals rather than a blind slave to them. So how do we do this? How do we cultivate this wise adult within us? It begins with the first and most fundamental discipline of the adult, self-awareness. You cannot manage what you do not first recognize. The moment you feel a powerful emotion rising within you, that familiar wave of stress, that hot flush of anger, that cold grip of anxiety that is your moment of power, that is the moment the adult must step forward. You must train yourself to pause, just as we discussed. In that pause, you must ask two simple but life-altering questions. First, what precisely am I feeling? And second, why am I feeling this? There is a powerful psychological phenomenon at play here. The simple act of giving an emotion a name, of labeling it, reduces its intensity. When you can step back and say, this feeling I am experiencing, this is frustration, you immediately create a space between you, the observer, and the emotion, the thing being observed. This is the beginning of all mastery. Instead of saying, I am furious, a subtle but profound shift occurs. You learn to say, I notice that I am feeling the sensation of anger right now. Can you feel the difference? In the first statement, you are the emotion. It has consumed you. You are the child. In the second statement, you are the adult, observing the child. You have moved from being inside the storm to being the calm, watchful eye in the center of it. This small shift in language is a monumental shift in power. It puts you back in the driver's seat. It is the adult calmly turning to the child in the back seat and saying, I see you, I hear you. Now let me handle this. Once you, the adult, have recognized the emotion, the next step in your duty as the driver is to interpret and reframe it. You must reshape its meaning. This is the second great discipline of the adult. Remember, the child sees things in primitive terms. It operates on a simple binary code: good, bad, safe, dangerous. The adult has the wisdom to see the nuance, to find the opportunity hidden within the challenge. Let's return to the example of feeling nervous before an important presentation. The child in the back seat is screaming, we're going to fail. They're all going to laugh at us. This is a threat. The untrained person believes this. They let that feeling paralyze them. But the trained adult, the wise interpreter, turns around and says calmly, no, we are not terrified. We are excited. This feeling, this energy coursing through our veins, is not a signal of danger. It is a signal of preparation. This is our body giving us the fuel we need to perform at our absolute best. Do you see the alchemy in that? You take the raw, chaotic energy of fear and you transform it into the focused, powerful energy of excitement. This is the technique of champions in every field of human endeavor. This applies to all emotions. When you feel the burn of frustration, the child says, this is terrible. I can't do it. I quit. The adult reframes it. This feeling of frustration is simply a signal that my current approach is not working. It is a valuable piece of feedback telling me it is time to be creative, to adjust my strategy, to find a new way. Frustration becomes an invitation to innovate. When you feel the sting of rejection, the child cries, I am not good enough. Nobody wants me. The adult reframes it. This rejection is not a judgment on my worth. It is simply a redirection. This door has closed so that a better, more suitable door can open. This is the universe guiding me to where I truly belong. Rejection becomes guidance. Another powerful technique of the adult is to create a delay. The child lives in the tyranny of the immediate. When it feels something, it demands an immediate reaction. To send the angry email now, to make the impulsive purchase now, to lash out with the hurtful comment now. The adult understands the incredible power of time. The adult knows that a decision made in the heat of emotion is almost always the wrong decision. So you must build a buffer, a pause, a space between the feeling and your response. A simple rule that can save your career, your relationships, and your peace of mind is this. Before responding to any significant emotional situation, Enforce a waiting period. It could be 10 deep breaths. It could be 10 minutes. It could be 24 hours. This waiting period allows the emotional storm of the child to pass and the clear sky of the adult's rational mind to return. It gives the adult time to process the situation and choose a wise response instead of an impulsive reaction. Let's put this into practice. Let's imagine a scenario. You're in a meeting and a colleague publicly criticizes your work in a way that feels unfair. The child immediately screams, "We're under attack. He's trying to make us look bad." Humiliate him, fight back, defend your honor. The physical response is instantaneous. Your face flushes, your heart pounds, your fists clench. This is the ancient survival instinct kicking in. The untrained person reacts from this state. They lash out defensively. They make sarcastic remarks. They create an enemy. They damage their professional reputation. The child has crashed the car. But the trained person, the person cultivating their inner adult, does something different. First, they pause. They take one slow, deliberate breath. In that breath, they practice awareness. The adult says internally, "Okay, I feel a strong surge of anger and embarrassment." That is the child reacting to a perceived threat to our status. Then the adult begins to reframe. This feels like an attack, but is it possible he is just clumsy with his words? Is there a tiny kernel of truth in what he said that I could learn from? Getting angry will only make me look weak and out of control. The most powerful response here is calmness. Finally, the adult chooses a response. Instead of lashing out, they might say, with complete composure, "Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate the perspective. I'll certainly take a closer look at that point." Do you feel the power in that? It is the difference between a puppet and a master. The first person is a puppet of their own emotions. The second is the master of their own response. One is a leaf in the wind. The other is the mountain that stands unshaken. You must understand, the goal here is not to suppress your emotions. That is a terrible strategy. That is like taking the child with all its vibrant energy and locking it in the trunk of the car. Eventually, the child will find a way to make itself heard, and it will be louder and more destructive than ever before. Suppressed emotions lead to bitterness, to resentment, to illness. No, the art is not suppression, it is integration, it is partnership. It is the adult learning to be a wise and loving parent to the inner child. It is listening to the child's feelings, validating them. I understand why you feel angry, and then making a conscious, wise decision that serves your highest good. When you train yourself to recognize, reframe, and consciously respond to your emotions, you become truly unstoppable. Instead of letting your feelings drive you into poor decisions, you use their energy to sharpen your focus. Instead of getting lost in frustration, you turn it into the fuel for innovation. Instead of panicking under pressure, you remain calm, composed, and in control. The world is full of people who are controlled by the child in the back seat. Their lives are a series of emotional accidents. But those who cultivate the wise adult within, those who learn to control their emotions, they are the ones who control their destiny. And so, we arrive at a critical juncture in our journey. We have journeyed deep into the architecture of the mind, uncovering the ancient, powerful, and often reactive programming that governs our instincts. We have explored the profound internal drama of the adult and the child, the constant dialogue between our wisdom and our wants, our reason and our reactions. We have spoken of the mind. We have spoken of emotion. But now, we must discuss the bridge. The physical, tangible, and profoundly powerful bridge that connects the world of thought and feeling to the world of the body. We must discuss the most overlooked, yet most essential of all human functions. We must talk about your breath. In our search for complex solutions to life's great challenges, we often overlook the simple, the profound, the tools that have been with us since the very moment of our birth. The breath is the first act of life and the last. It is the constant, rhythmic companion to our every thought, our every feeling, our every action. And yet, for most of us, it remains an unconscious process, a biological utility that we pay no mind to, until we are gasping for it. What a tragic oversight. For within this simple rhythmic act lies the key to emotional mastery. It is the remote control for your nervous system. It is the manual override for the panic alarm we spoke of earlier. It is the physical tool the adult uses to soothe the frantic child. It is, without exaggeration, the first discipline, the discipline upon which all other forms of self-control are built. To understand its power, you must first understand a simple truth. At any given moment, your breath is sending one of two powerful messages to the command center of your brain. And you, and only you, have the power to choose which message it sends. The first message, the one most people send unconsciously throughout their day, is the message of panic. It is the message of the tiger. This message is carried on the back of breath that is shallow, rapid, and originates high in the chest. When you breathe this way, you are physically mimicking the exact breathing pattern of an animal in a state of fight or flight. Think about it. When the child within you becomes frightened or angry, what is the first thing that happens? Your chest tightens. Your breath catches. It becomes quick and erratic. This physical action sends a direct, undeniable signal to your ancient brain that says, confirm, the threat is real. The tiger is here. Escalate the panic. It becomes a terrifying feedback loop. The emotional mind, the child, feels a threat, which causes shallow breathing. The shallow breathing then confirms to the brain that the threat is real, which causes it to flood your body with even more stress hormones, which makes the child even more frantic, which makes your breathing even worse. It is a downward spiral of self-generated panic, all sustained by the unconscious way you are using your lungs. But there is another message, a message of power, a message of authority, a message of peace. This is the message that says, all is well. The situation is under control. We are safe. This message is carried on the back of breath that is deep, slow, rhythmic, and originates from your diaphragm, from the core of your being. When you consciously choose to breathe in this manner, you are performing a profound act of self-mastery. You are sending a signal that directly overrides the panic alarm. You are telling your amygdala, that ancient sentinel, to stand down. You are, in effect, communicating to the frantic child within you, not with words, but with a deep physiological calm. It is the adult placing a steady, reassuring hand on the child's shoulder and saying, without a single word, I am here, I am in charge now. This is not poetry, this is physiology. Slow, controlled breathing stimulates the vagus nerve, which is the primary component of your body's relaxation response. It actively lowers your heart rate. It reduces your blood pressure. It signals your brain to cease the production of stress hormones. It is the physical circuit breaker for the entire fight or flight mechanism. The ability to consciously choose which of these two messages to send is your first and most fundamental power. It is the discipline upon which all other self-mastery rests. So, how do we practice this? How do we move this from a fascinating theory to a practical, life-altering skill? We do so by learning and practicing the disciplines of deliberate breathing. These are not mere techniques, they are rituals of self-control. They are the physical exercises you must perform to build the muscle of a calm mind. The first and perhaps most foundational of these is a discipline used by those who face the most extreme pressure imaginable, elite soldiers, first responders, masters of their craft. It is often called box breathing, but I prefer to call it the discipline of the square. For you are, in effect, building a sanctuary of calm in your mind, one side at a time. It is profoundly simple, yet its effects are immediate and immense. I want you to imagine a square in your mind's eye. We will trace the sides of this square with our breath. First, you will draw the top side of the square. You will inhale slowly and deeply through your nose for a steady count of 4 seconds. Not a rushed count, but a deliberate, measured count. 1, 2, 3, 4. As you do this, feel the air fill, not just your chest, but your belly. This is the breath of calm. Next, you will draw the second side of the square, moving downwards. You will simply hold that breath without strain for another count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. In this pause, there is stillness, there is control. You are showing your body that you are the one in charge, not the panicked impulse. Then you will draw the bottom side of the square. You will exhale slowly and completely through your mouth for another steady count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Release the air completely. Feel the tension leaving your body with the breath. And finally, you will draw the last side of the square, moving upwards to complete it. You will hold the breath out, remaining empty for a final count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a pause of quiet confidence before the next cycle begins. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. You are creating a perfect, predictable, rhythmic pattern. This rhythm is the antidote to the chaos of the fight or flight response. You are imposing order upon your own physiology. You are sending that undeniable message to your brain. Everything is under control. This is the discipline you practice in moments of rising stress, before a difficult conversation, when you feel anger begin to boil, when you receive bad news. 3 cycles, 3 complete squares. That is all it often takes to stop the panic spiral in its tracks and allow the adult, your wise and rational mind, to come back to the controls. The second discipline is for moments of more acute anxiety. For those times when the child is truly screaming in fear, I call it the discipline of the deep release. It is a technique known as 4-7-8 breathing, and its power lies in the exhale. The exhale is the great surrender. It is physiologically linked to the body's relaxation response. By deliberately extending your exhale, you can rapidly and dramatically slow your heart rate and calm your entire system. Here is the ritual. You inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4. You hold the breath for a count of 7. This pause allows the oxygen to saturate your system. And then the most important part, you exhale slowly, completely, and audibly through your mouth for a full count of 8 seconds. You are making the exhale twice as long as the inhale. You are physically expelling the anxiety, the tension, the fear from your body. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Repeat this 3 or 4 times, and you will feel a profound shift in your physical and mental state. It is a tranquilizer created by your own lungs. But here is the most important philosophy I can share with you today about this practice. These disciplines are not merely emergency tools. To think of them that way is to miss the entire point. You cannot expect to magically find this tool in the middle of a hurricane if you have not practiced using it in the calm. This must become a way of being. Most people go through their entire lives in a state of chronic low-grade stress, and they have absolutely no idea. Their default breathing pattern is shallow, rapid, and erratic. They are constantly sending their brain that low-level signal of panic, day in and day out. They live in a silent epidemic of anxiety, and they accept it as normal. Their bodies are always braced for a tiger that never comes. You must choose to be different. You must cultivate a new baseline, a baseline of calm. And you do this by weaving the practice of conscious breathing into the fabric of your normal day. This is not about adding another monumental task to your to-do list. It is about transforming the small, empty moments of your day into opportunities for practice. I want you to establish a few simple rituals. Let us call the first one the red light ritual. Every time you are driving and you stop at a red light, that is your cue. Instead of checking your phone or feeling impatient, you will take one single, deep, conscious breath. Inhale for 4, exhale for 6. That's it. In that small moment, you are practicing. You are strengthening the muscle. Let us create the threshold ritual. Every time you walk through a doorway, entering your office, arriving home, walking into a meeting, you will use the threshold as a trigger. As you pass through the door, you will take one deep, conscious breath. You are literally entering a new space with a renewed sense of calm and intention. Let us create the pre-call ritual. Before you make or answer any phone call, before you join any online meeting, you will pause. You will take one deep 4-7-8 breath. You will enter the conversation from a state of centered control, not a state of scattered reaction. Do you see the power in this? These small, seemingly insignificant acts, when practiced consistently, begin to compound. You are sowing seeds of calmness hundreds of times a day, and the harvest you will reap is an unshakable mind. You are reconditioning your entire nervous system. You are training your body that your new normal, your default state, is one of peace and composure. Then, when the inevitable storms of life do arrive, you will not have to remember how to be calm. Your body will already know. Your default state will be so strong that the waves of panic will wash over you, but they will not move you. This is the forgotten art. The ancient warriors of Japan, the samurai, practiced breath control to calm their hearts before battle. The Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome used the breath to maintain their composure in the face of chaos. The meditating monks of the Himalayas have used it for thousands of years to achieve profound states of mental clarity. And today, the highest performers in every field, the elite athletes, the world-class surgeons, the master performers, they all rely on the conscious control of their breath to maintain focus and emotional stability under the most intense pressure. This is the lineage you are joining when you commit to this discipline. You are taking possession of a timeless tool, a birthright you have forgotten you owned. It costs you nothing. It is with you always. In the traffic jam, in the boardroom, in the middle of a heated argument, in the dead of night when worry keeps you awake, your breath is your greatest ally. It is your anchor in the present moment. So, I ask you to make a commitment today. A commitment to transform your relationship with this most fundamental process of life. Move it from the realm of the unconscious to the realm of the conscious. Elevate it from a mere function to a profound discipline. Control your breath, and you control the physical state of your body. Control the physical state of your body, and you gain profound influence over your emotional state. Gain influence over your emotional state, and you reclaim the clarity of your mind. Now that we have this ultimate physical tool to manage our inner state, we must turn our attention to the world outside. How do we apply this newfound composure to the challenges, the obstacles, and the very meaning of the events life throws in our path? This leads us logically and powerfully to the art of reframing, and so here we stand. We have journeyed into the very wiring of our ancient brain and faced the tiger of our primal instincts. We have navigated the rich and often turbulent inner world of the adult and the child, learning the art of wise leadership over raw emotion. And we have mastered the first discipline, taking conscious control of our own breath, proving to ourselves that we can, in fact, command our own physical state. We have built a foundation of inner calm, but a foundation, no matter how strong, is useless without a magnificent structure built upon it. A calm body housing a panic philosophy is still a life lived in a prison of circumstance. Now, we must take the most crucial step of all. We must turn our attention from the inner world of our reactions to the outer world of events. And we must learn the greatest of all human arts, the art of mental alchemy, the art of turning lead into gold, the art of reframing challenges into opportunities. The primary difference, the great dividing line between those who lead lives of success and fulfillment and those who lead lives of struggle and disappointment, is not found in their circumstances. It is found in their philosophy. It is found in the lens through which they view the world. Two people can face the exact same event, the exact same crushing setback, the exact same unexpected tragedy, the exact same surprising opportunity. One will be destroyed by it, the other will be made by it. What is the difference? It is not what happens. It is the story they choose to tell themselves about what happens. You must first embrace this fundamental law of life. The events of your life are neutral. Circumstances, in and of themselves, are like a block of raw marble. They have no inherent meaning. A company layoff is not inherently bad. It is simply an event. A sudden illness is not inherently tragic. It is simply an event. A business failure is not inherently the end. It is simply an event. It is the sculptor you who decides whether to carve that block of marble into a figure of tragedy or a monument to triumph. My great mentor Earl Schoaf used to say that the same wind blows on us all. Think about that. The wind of recession blows on everyone. The wind of technological change blows on everyone. The wind of disappointment, of heartbreak, of opportunity, these same winds blow across every single life. It is not the blowing of the wind that determines your destination. It is the set of your sail. And the set of your sail is your philosophy. It is the art of how you choose to see things. When faced with a challenge, humanity stands at a great fork in the road. On one path walks the victim. On the other walks the student. The victim's path is wide, easy, and well-traveled. The victim's entire philosophy is built around a single, soul-crushing question. Why is this happening to me? Listen to the language of the victim. It is the language of blame. It's the economy's fault. It's my boss's fault. It's my upbringing's fault. It is the language of complaint. It's not fair. Things like this always happen to me. And it is the language of excuses. I couldn't do it because I would have succeeded, but this question, why me, is a journey to a barren land. It leads only to feelings of helplessness, of bitterness, of resentment, of powerlessness. The victim gives away all of their power to the external world, becoming a leaf tossed about in the wind, convinced that they are at the mercy of forces beyond their control. But there is another path. It is a path less traveled. It requires more effort, more consciousness, more discipline. It is the path of the student, and the student's entire philosophy is built around a single life-altering question: how is this happening for me? Do you feel the shift? It is the difference between night and day. It is the difference between a prison and a classroom. How is this happening for me is a question that immediately reclaims all of your power. It presupposes that within every event, no matter how difficult, there is a lesson, a gift, an opportunity. It transforms you from a passive recipient of fate into an active participant in your own growth. The language of the student is the language of responsibility, of curiosity, of learning. The student asks, what is this situation here to teach me? What strength is this challenge forcing me to develop? What hidden opportunity does this setback now make possible? This is the choice you face in every single moment of adversity. Will you walk the path of the victim or the path of the student? Will you ask the question that drains your power or the question that unleashes it? This is not about pretending that pain doesn't exist. That is naive. The winter is still cold. The storm is still real. This is about having the wisdom to know that the winter is also what makes the trees grow deeper roots. This is about knowing that the storm is what clears away the old to make way for the new. So, how do we train ourselves to walk this path? How do we become a master of this mental alchemy? We do so by practicing the disciplines of reframing. The first is the discipline of the question. I have already given you the master question. How is this happening for me? But you must become a connoisseur of powerful questions. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. When you are in the thick of a problem, a victim asks, who can I blame? A student asks, what can I learn? A victim asks, why is this so difficult? A student asks, what skills must I acquire to make this feel easy? A victim asks, when will this be over? A student asks, how can I use this time most effectively? You must become a relentless interrogator of your own challenges, always searching for the gift. The second is the discipline of language. The words you use are not mere descriptions of your reality. They are the very architects of it. The words you consistently use shape your perceptions, your emotions, and your actions. You must choose your words with the care of a poet and the precision of a surgeon. A victim says, I have a terrible problem. The word problem feels heavy, permanent, and overwhelming. A student says, I am facing a challenge. The word challenge feels like a contest, an opportunity to test one's strength. A master goes even further and says, I am in an interesting situation. The word situation is neutral. It invites curiosity and strategic thinking. A victim says, I failed. The word failed feels like a final judgment on their identity. A student says, that attempt didn't work. It was a lesson. The word lesson implies that knowledge has been gained and that the next attempt will be better. You must audit your own vocabulary. Are you using the language of a victim or the language of a student? Banish words like impossible, overwhelmed, and stuck from your daily speech. Replace them with words like challenging, opportunity, and figuring it out. This is not a game of semantics. This is the act of consciously building the mental framework of a resilient mind. The third discipline is what I call the law of the two-sided coin. Every single event in your life, no matter how it first appears, is a coin with two sides. One side is the apparent difficulty, the pain, the loss. The other side is the hidden opportunity, the lesson, the strength it can build. Most people spend their lives staring at the first side, hypnotized by the perceived negative. You must have the discipline to flip the coin over. A business deal falls through. That is the first side of the coin, the loss of money, the disappointment. Flip it over. What's on the other side? The invaluable lesson you just learned about contracts that will save you from a catastrophic mistake years down the road. The discovery that this particular partner was not the right fit, saving you from a toxic long-term relationship. You experience a painful breakup. That is the first side of the coin. The heartbreak, the loneliness. Flip it over. What's on the other side? The opportunity to rediscover who you are as an individual. The freedom to pursue goals you had put on hold. The wisdom you have gained about what you truly need in a partner, which will guide you to a far more fulfilling relationship in the future. Every challenge carries an opportunity in its other hand, but it is your responsibility to have the courage to look for it. The fourth discipline is the discipline of time, perspective. Our ancient brain, the child within, has no sense of time. When something bad happens, it feels like it is everything and it will last forever. You must use your adult mind to apply the powerful lens of time. When you are faced with a setback, a rejection, an embarrassment that feels all-consuming, ask yourself this powerful question: will this matter in 5 years? The answer is almost always a resounding no. Then ask, will it matter in 5 months? Probably not. In 5 weeks? Unlikely. This question doesn't erase the immediate sting, but it shrinks the perceived size of the problem down to its true manageable proportions. It stops you from turning a temporary setback into a permanent tragedy. It is an act of profound perspective. And this brings us to the greatest reframe of all, the reframing of failure itself. Most people are terrified of failure. They see it as the opposite of success. What a tragic philosophy. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is an essential, unavoidable, and invaluable part of success. You cannot get to success without traveling through the land of failure. Think of Walt Disney. Before he built his empire of dreams, he was fired from a newspaper because his editor told him he lacked imagination. He started multiple animation companies that went bankrupt. He faced ridicule and rejection for his idea of a feature-length cartoon. He could have seen these events as signs to quit. He could have concluded, I am a failure, but he didn't. He was a master student. He saw every failure as a lesson. The bankruptcy taught him how to manage money better. The rejections taught him how to refine his pitch. The lack of belief from others only strengthened his own resolve. Every setback was not a dead end, it was a course correction. Every failure was simply the successful discovery of another way that did not work, bringing him one step closer to the way that did. You must adopt this philosophy. Failure is feedback. Failure is education. Failure is the tuition you pay for wisdom. The only true failure is the failure to try, or the failure to learn from the attempt. This shift in mindset, from seeing problems as punishments to seeing them as curriculum, is the single greatest shift you can make in your life. It does not happen overnight. It is a skill, it is a muscle, and you build it through daily practice. Start small. Do not wait for a major crisis to practice this philosophy. Practice on the small annoyances of life. The traffic jam is not a problem. It is an unexpected opportunity to listen to an educational podcast or to practice your deep breathing. The rude cashier is not a personal attack. It is a lesson in patience and a reminder that everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. A spilled coffee is not a disaster. It is a humorous reminder from the universe to slow down and be more present. You cannot always control the events of your life. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control other people. You cannot control the seasons, but you can always control your philosophy. You can always control the meaning you assign to the events. You are the sole and undisputed author of your own story. When you train your mind to see opportunities instead of obstacles, to see lessons instead of losses, you take back your power. You cease to be a victim of your life, and you become the architect of it. And you build a mind so resilient, so strong, and so wise that it becomes truly, unshakably powerful. Now that we have learned to change our perspective on the external world, we must turn our attention back inward. For this skill of reframing is not a one-time act. It must be supported and strengthened by consistent daily mental training. And so, we have arrived at the very workshop of the soul. We have journeyed through the architecture of the mind, the landscape of emotion, the mechanics of the breath, and the profound alchemy of perspective. We have learned that the events of life are neutral, and that it is our philosophy, our chosen interpretation, that gives them their power. But a philosophy, no matter how brilliant, is useless if it is not embodied. A map, no matter how accurate, is worthless if you do not walk the path. The act of reframing a challenge, of choosing the student's path over the victim's, is an act of immense mental strength. And strength of any kind is not a gift. It is not something you are born with. Strength is the result of training. It is the reward for discipline. It is the harvest reaped from consistent, deliberate effort. This brings us to what is perhaps the single most important operational philosophy for a life of success. A philosophy given to me by my mentor, a man who changed the course of my life with a few simple, powerful ideas. He told me, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Let that sink in for a moment. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. He said, if you work hard on your job, you can make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. And he wasn't just talking about a financial fortune. He was talking about a fortune of wisdom, a fortune of character, a fortune of resilience, a fortune of peace of mind. Your formal education will make you a living. Your self-education will make you your life. Mental resilience, the ability to be unshakable in the storms of life, is not an accident. It is the direct result of your personal development curriculum. The people who stay calm under pressure are not lucky. They are simply the dedicated students who have been showing up to class every single day. They have been doing their homework. They have been training. Think of it this way. You would not expect a person who has never lifted a weight to walk into a gymnasium and lift 300 pounds. It is impossible. They have not built the muscle. Yet, most people expect to go through life without ever training their minds. And then they are shocked and overwhelmed when life presents them with a 300-pound problem. You must build an inner gymnasium, a place you go to every single day to train the muscles of your mind, your character, and your spirit. The strength you build in this inner gymnasium, in the quiet moments of your life, is what will determine how you perform in the chaotic public moments. So, what are the exercises? What are the disciplines we must practice in this mental gymnasium to build this unshakable strength? Today we will discuss the 5 foundational pillars of mental training. The first and most essential is the discipline of stillness. In our modern world, we are addicted to noise. We are addicted to distraction. We are terrified of being alone with our own thoughts. And so our minds are like a chaotic, frantic, and mismanaged factory, churning out thoughts of worry, of anxiety, of regret, with no one in charge. The practice of meditation is the act of becoming the calm, confident manager of your own thought factory. Many people misunderstand meditation. They think the goal is to empty the mind, to stop thinking. That is impossible. Your mind is a thought-generating machine. That is its job. To ask it to stop thinking is like asking your heart to stop beating. The goal of meditation is not to stop the thoughts. The goal is to change your relationship with them. The goal is to get to a place where you can observe your thoughts without being consumed by them. Imagine you are sitting on the bank of a river. The thoughts are like leaves floating by on the current. A thought of a past mistake floats by. A thought of a future worry floats by. A thought of a criticism someone made floats by. The untrained mind, the mind of the child, jumps into the river and clings to every single leaf. It gets swept away by the current of every thought, tossed and turned pulled under by the rapids of its own thinking. The practice of meditation is the discipline of learning to simply sit on the bank. You see the leaf of worry. You acknowledge it. There is a thought of worry, and you let it float by. You do not judge it. You do not cling to it. You do not fight it. You simply observe it. And in that space of pure observation, you discover a profound truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. This is the beginning of all freedom. When you practice this, even for just 5 or 10 minutes a day, you are literally rewiring your brain. You are strengthening the prefrontal cortex, the seat of the adult, your rational mind, and you are weakening the reflexive grip of the amygdala, the seat of the child, your emotional mind. The result is not the absence of negative thoughts. The result is the freedom from being controlled by them. The second pillar of mental training is the discipline of foresight. This is the practice of visualization. Now, this is not the naive act of wishful thinking. This is the disciplined, focused act of mental rehearsal. It is one of the great secrets of all top performers. The human mind, in its magnificence, cannot tell the difference between a real experience and an experience that is vividly and repeatedly imagined. When you mentally rehearse a future event with clarity and emotion, your brain begins to create the neural pathways as if you have already done it. Think of an elite athlete. Before the most important game of their life, they have already played that game in their mind 1,000 times. They have visualized themselves moving with confidence, executing their skills flawlessly, overcoming challenges, and achieving success. They have felt the feeling of victory long before the final whistle blows. When they step onto the field, they are not hoping to succeed. They are stepping into a reality they have already created. They have built a bridge of confidence to their own successful future. You must do the same. Before an important meeting, a difficult conversation, a challenging presentation, do not just prepare your notes, prepare your mind. Take 10 minutes, close your eyes, and watch the movie of your success. See yourself walking into that room, not with anxiety, but with a quiet, calm confidence. See yourself speaking with clarity and conviction. See yourself handling difficult questions with grace and intelligence. Imagine the other person responding positively. Feel the feeling of a successful outcome. Make it as real and as sensory as possible. What do you see? What do you hear? How do you feel? The more vividly you imagine success, the more your brain starts to believe it is not just possible, but inevitable. When the real situation arrives, you will feel a sense of calm familiarity. You will feel like you have already been there before, because mentally you have. You are no longer stepping into the unknown. You are simply executing a plan that you have already rehearsed to perfection. The third pillar is the discipline of reflection, the practice of journaling. The great philosopher Socrates is credited with saying that an unexamined life is not worth living. The journal is the primary tool for that examination. It is the place where you have a structured, honest conversation with the wisest and most important person in your life, yourself. Most people's thoughts and worries swirl around in their head in a chaotic, repetitive loop. The act of writing them down forces clarity. It takes the abstract storm of emotion and turns it into concrete, manageable words on a page. You cannot solve a problem that you cannot define. Journaling helps you define it. But it is more than just a problem-solving tool. It is a tool for profound personal growth. You can structure your journaling practice in many ways. You can practice gratitude journaling, where you write down 3 specific things you are grateful for each day. This simple act, practiced consistently, rewires your brain to scan the world for positives instead of negatives. It is a powerful antidote to the mind's natural negativity bias. You can practice problem-solving journaling, where you write down a challenge you are facing and then brainstorm as many possible solutions as you can without judgment. This moves you from a state of worry into a state of active, creative problem solving. And you can practice self-interrogation journaling, where you ask yourself powerful questions. What did I learn today? Where did I act in accordance with my values? And where did I fall short? If I could live today over again, what would I do differently? A journal is a conversation with your wisest self. It is the place where you process the lessons of the past clarify the intentions of the present, and design the vision for your future. Do not go a day without this powerful conversation. The fourth pillar is one that many people avoid, but it is one of the most powerful of all. It is the discipline of deliberate discomfort. Our modern world is designed for comfort. We have conditioned ourselves to avoid anything that feels difficult, unpleasant, or stressful. But in doing so, we have made ourselves fragile. A life lived entirely within the comfort zone is a life of stagnation. Resilience, like a muscle, is only built through resistance. You must therefore become a professional at seeking out controlled, intelligent, and deliberate discomfort. You must get comfortable with being uncomfortable. This is the principle behind a cold shower. Is a cold shower pleasant? For most, no. But its value is not in the cold. Its value is in your conscious decision to face a physical stressor and to remain calm within it, to consciously control your breath while your body is screaming at you to panic. It is a 3-minute training session in resilience. You are teaching your nervous system in a controlled environment that you are the one in charge, not your reactive instincts. You are in effect giving yourself a small, controlled dose of a stressor to build immunity to the larger, uncontrolled stressors of life. It is a vaccine against panic. But this discipline extends far beyond cold showers. It is the discipline of doing the most difficult task on your to-do list first before you do the easy ones. It is the discipline of taking the stairs instead of the elevator. It is the discipline of raising your hand to ask a question when you are afraid of looking foolish. It is the discipline of having the difficult but necessary conversation that you have been avoiding. Every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, every time you lean into a challenge instead of shrinking from it, you are casting a vote for a stronger version of yourself. The amateur avoids discomfort. The professional seeks it out, knowing that on the other side of that temporary feeling lies growth, strength, and an expanded capacity to handle whatever life throws their way. And this brings us to the fifth and final pillar of mental training. It is the discipline of consumption. This discipline is the bridge between your inner work and your outer world. Your mind is like a garden. The 4 disciplines we have just discussed are the acts of tilling the soil, pulling the weeds, and strengthening the roots. But a garden cannot flourish without high-quality seeds and nourishment. What you allow into your mind, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, the people you converse with, the videos you watch, this is the food and the seed for your mental garden. The old saying from the world of computing is profoundly true for the human mind. Garbage in, garbage out. If you feed your mind a steady diet of mental junk food, gossip, celebrity news, negative media, mindless social media scrolling, how can you possibly expect to cultivate a garden of peace, clarity, and strength? You will reap what you sow. You must become a vigilant gatekeeper of your mind. You must consciously curate a mental diet that nourishes and strengthens you. Read the biographies of great men and women. Study the books of philosophy. Listen to lectures and interviews with the most brilliant minds in the world. Engage in conversations that challenge you and expand your thinking. Your mental training is not just what you do in the quiet moments of meditation and journaling. It is a 24-hour-a-day commitment to feeding your mind with the best, most powerful, most uplifting material you can find. These 5 pillars, stillness, foresight, reflection, discomfort, and consumption, they are the complete workout program for your inner gymnasium. This is not something you do once. This is a lifelong curriculum. It is the daily, consistent, and often unspectacular process of working harder on yourself than you do on your job. But the good news is that every small effort compounds. Every 10 minutes of meditation, every visualization session, every journal entry, every moment of chosen discomfort, every great book you read, each one is a deposit into the bank account of your mental resilience. And over time, these deposits compound, earning interest, until you have built a fortune of inner strength so vast that no external event can ever bankrupt you. But this inner work, this solitary training in your mental gymnasium, is only half of the equation. For the strength you build must be tested, supported, and influenced by the world you inhabit. You can build a magnificent garden in your mind, but you must also be mindful of the quality of the soil and the weather and the world outside your gates. This brings us logically to the profound influence of your environment and the people you choose to walk with on this journey. And so, we have spent considerable time together in the inner world. We have toured the workshop of the soul, the gymnasium of the mind. We have committed to the profound, life-altering philosophy of working harder on ourselves than we do on our jobs. We have established the disciplines of stillness, of foresight, of reflection, of deliberate discomfort, and of conscious consumption. We have, in essence, begun the noble work of building an inner fortress, a citadel of calm, resilience, and unshakable strength. But here we must face a sobering and critical truth. The strongest fortress can still fall if it is under constant siege from a hostile environment. The most dedicated athlete will ultimately fail if they train for hours a day, only to go home and live on a diet of poison and polluted water. The inner work is essential. It is the foundation, but it is only half of the equation. Now, we must turn our attention outward. We must look with clear, honest, and unflinching eyes at the world we inhabit. For your environment, the spaces you occupy, the people you associate with, and the information you absorb is not a passive backdrop to your life. It is an active, living force. It is either nourishing your growth or stunting it. It is either supporting the calm, wise, adult within you, or it is constantly triggering the panicked, reactive child. Therefore, the next great discipline we must master is the discipline of becoming the vigilant gatekeeper of our own lives. I want you to hold a powerful metaphor in your mind. Your mind is a garden, a rich, fertile, and sacred piece of ground. The inner work we have just discussed, the meditation, the journaling, the visualization, that is the work of tilling the soil, of planting the seeds of greatness, of strengthening the roots of your character. But a gardener's work is not done when the seeds are planted. A great part of a gardener's work is to protect the garden, to build a fence, to pull the weeds, to ensure the soil is not contaminated, to be vigilant about what is allowed to enter that sacred space. Today, we will discuss the 3 great fences you must build around your garden. We must become the master gardener of your physical space, your social circle, and your information diet. Let us begin with the first and most immediate of these, the garden of your physical space. Do not make the mistake of believing that your physical surroundings are insignificant. They are a profound reflection of your mental state, and in turn they profoundly influence your mental state. It is a two-way street. The chaos around you creates chaos within you. The order around you creates order within you. Look at your home. Is it a sanctuary or is it a source of stress? When you walk through the door after a long day, does your environment signal to your nervous system that it is time to rest, to recharge, to find peace? Or does it greet you with clutter, disorganization, and a list of unfinished tasks that only adds to your burden? You must be the conscious designer of your own sanctuary. This is not about expensive furniture or lavish decoration. It is about intention. Carve out a space in your home, even if it is just a single chair in a quiet corner that is dedicated to your growth. A place with no television, no distractions. A place where you keep your books, your journal. A place that when you enter it, your mind knows it is time to work on yourself. By curating this space, you make the habit of personal development infinitely easier. Now, look at your workplace. Look at your desk. Is it a chaotic pile of papers, a testament to a scattered mind, or is it a clean, organized, and focused workstation? A clear desk promotes a clear mind. The act of taking 10 minutes at the end of each day to organize your workspace is not just an act of tidying up, it is an act of mental hygiene. It is a declaration to your subconscious mind that you are in control, that you are a person of order and intention. And then there is the ultimate physical environment, nature. In our modern world of concrete, steel, and screens, we have become disconnected from our original home. We have forgotten that our minds and bodies are designed to be in harmony with the natural world. Nature is the great antidote to the artificial stress of modern life. Studies have shown that spending even 20 minutes walking in a park, sitting by the ocean, or simply being among trees can significantly reduce the stress hormone cortisol in your body. It calms the frantic child. It resets your nervous system to its factory settings. You must make it a deliberate practice to dose yourself with nature as you would a vital medicine. Your physical environment is the soil in which the roots of your mind are planted. You must tend to it with care, with intention, and with the understanding that it is constantly shaping the quality of your inner life. But as important as the physical soil is, it is nothing compared to the second and most critical of all environmental factors. We must now discuss the garden of your social circle. This is perhaps the most powerful force that will shape your destiny. The people you choose to associate with will determine, to an almost frightening degree, the person you will become. The most famous piece of advice I ever received, the advice that, when I finally understood it, changed my life more than any other, is this: you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I want you to let that statement land. I want you to take it out and look at it. This is not a casual observation. It is, I believe, one of the great and unchangeable laws of human nature. You will become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. We are not just talking about their average income. We are talking about the average of their attitudes, the average of their health habits, the average of their ambition, the average of their values, the average of their composure under pressure. Human beings are social chameleons. We cannot help but be influenced by the people closest to us. Their conversations become our inner dialogue. Their beliefs slowly become our own. Their expectations set the ceiling for our own potential. You will find that you will be pulled with the force of gravity toward the average of your peer group. So the most important question you may ever ask yourself is this: who am I spending my time with? You must become a ruthless yet compassionate auditor of your associations. To help with this, let us divide our relationships into 3 distinct categories. First, there are the associations of disassociation. These are the people who, quite frankly, are the weeds in your garden. They are the chronically negative, the complainers who see a problem in every solution, the cynics who mock ambition and belittle effort, the gossipers who feast on the failures of others. When you spend time with these people, you walk away feeling drained, diminished, and discouraged. They are thieves of your energy. They are assassins of your dreams. Their negativity is a poison that seeps into the soil of your mind and kills your aspirations. Now, what do you do with these people? They may be family members. They may be old friends. The answer is not necessarily to cut them out of your life with harshness. The answer is disassociation. This means you must deliberately and drastically limit your exposure. You can love them from a distance. You can wish them well from afar, but you cannot allow them to take up significant space in your garden. You must have the courage to protect your own mental and emotional health. Your future depends on it. The second category is what I call the associations of limitation. These are not bad people. In fact, they are often good, kind, loving people. But their ambition for life is limited. They are comfortable. They have reached a certain plateau and have decided to set up camp. They are not interested in the constant and never-ending journey of personal growth that you are now on. These people are not weeds, but they represent a fence around your potential. The danger with these associations is that their comfort is seductive. It is easy to spend time with them and feel your own ambition begin to soften, your own standards begin to drop. The strategy here is not disassociation, but limited association. Enjoy their company, love them, but be aware that their influence is one of comfort, not of challenge. And if you want to grow, you must be challenged. This brings us to the third and most vital category: the associations of inspiration. These are the people you must deliberately, strategically, and relentlessly seek out. These are the people who are further ahead than you are, people who challenge your thinking, people who hold you to a higher standard, people whose own lives are a testament to the possibilities you are striving for. Their success, their wisdom, their composure, it is contagious in the best possible way. Spending just 1 hour with a person like this can be more valuable than a year of spending time with the wrong crowd. They are the sunlight and the fresh water for your garden. And you say, but where do I find these people? The answer is simple. You must go where they are. They are not sitting in the cynical corner of the bar. They are at the seminar. They are at the library. They are in the workshop. They are in the mastermind group. They are reading the books you should be reading. You must invest in yourself and your own growth. And in doing so, you will inevitably find yourself in the rooms where these people congregate. You must make yourself valuable, and you will attract valuable people into your life. This entire process requires courage. The courage to set boundaries. The courage to have difficult conversations. The courage to walk away from relationships that are holding you back. And the courage to seek out people who intimidate you with their level of achievement. This is the hard work of a master gardener. And finally, we come to the third great fence you must build around your mind. We must tend to the garden of your information. In the last section, we spoke of the discipline of consumption. Now we must treat it as an act of environmental design. Every single day, you are exposed to a torrent of information. If you are not a conscious, vigilant gatekeeper, your mind will be flooded with mental pollution. The constant diet of negative news, of outrage media, of mindless social media debates, of celebrity gossip. This is the mental equivalent of junk food. It provides a momentary hit of stimulation, but it leaves you feeling anxious, cynical, powerless, and malnourished. It creates a constant background hum of stress that makes inner peace impossible. You must be the curator of your own mental museum. You must be the librarian of your own mind. You must consciously choose to feed your mind with information that is nourishing, empowering, and aligned with the person you wish to become. What does this mean in practice? It means you read the books that have stood the test of time. You read the biographies of the men and women you admire. Reading a great book is not a pastime. It is an intimate conversation with a master. It means you listen to the podcasts and the lectures that expand your mind and teach you new skills. You can turn your car into a university on wheels. You can invite a world-class mentor to speak directly to you every single day. And it means you must have the discipline to unplug, to create a digital detox. Turn off the non-essential notifications on your phone. They are nothing but a corporate attempt to hijack your attention. Set specific, limited times for checking email and social media, rather than letting them dictate the rhythm of your day. Have no phone zones in your home, especially at the dinner table and in the bedroom. This is not an act of deprivation. It is an act of liberation. It is you, the adult, the master of your own life, reclaiming your most valuable assets, your time, your focus, and your peace of mind. So, here is the work before you, the work of the master gardener. You must tend to your physical spaces, creating an outer world of order and peace. You must tend to your social circle, ruthlessly pruning the weeds and actively seeking the sunlight. And you must tend to your information diet, consciously nourishing your mind with the best that has ever been thought and said. You cannot achieve a calm, successful, and powerful inner life while simultaneously living in a chaotic, negative, and polluted outer world. The two are inextricably linked. You must become the architect of your environment. You must become the vigilant gatekeeper of your mind. I urge you, look at your life today, not tomorrow, but today. Who are your 5? What is on your desk? What is on your bookshelf? The answers to these questions will tell you more about your future than any crystal ball. For now that we have fortified our minds through training and protected them by curating our environment, we must translate all of this newfound strength and clarity into consistent daily action. For a philosophy without action is mere speculation. A garden with a strong fence but no consistent tending will eventually be overrun. This brings us to the very architecture of a successful life, the daily habits that build an unshakable mind. And so we come to the great intersection where philosophy meets the pavement. This is where the magnificent theories of the mind and the soul must be translated into the practical reality of our daily lives. For a philosophy without action is nothing more than a noble dream. A brilliant idea without a daily habit to sustain it is like a magnificent seed left to rot on the shelf. We have fortified our minds through diligent training. We have built a fence around our sacred mental garden by consciously curating our environment and our associations. We have done the essential work of preparation. But now we must discuss the work of the master gardener, the work that happens not just once, but every single day, rain or shine, in season and out. We must discuss the architecture of your habits. For here is one of the great truths of life. An extraordinary life is not the result of a few extraordinary acts. An extraordinary life is the result of ordinary acts, performed with extraordinary consistency. Success is not a magical, mystical event that descends upon a chosen few. Success is the natural and predictable consequence of consistently applying the daily fundamentals. Calmness is not a personality trait you are born with. It is the harvest you reap from the seeds of peace you plant day after day. This brings us to one of the most ancient and unchangeable laws of human existence, the law of sowing and reaping. This law is simple. It is absolute. What you sow, you shall reap. You cannot sow the seeds of thistle and expect to reap a harvest of wheat. You cannot sow the seeds of idleness and complaint and expect to reap a harvest of success and fulfillment. And you cannot sow the seeds of chaos, reactivity, and distraction in the springtime of your day and expect to reap a harvest of peace and composure in the autumn of your evening. Every single day is a new field. Every single habit is a seed. And the person you will be in 5 years is nothing more than the accumulated harvest of the seeds you plant today. So the great question is not, what do I want to have? The great question is, what am I willing to plant? A philosophy without a habit is mere speculation. But a habit infused with a powerful philosophy becomes the very tool that shapes your destiny. This is why we must now become the conscious architects of our days. For an unshakable life is nothing more than the sum of unshakable days, strung together, one after another. So, how do we design an unshakable day? We do so by understanding that a day has an architecture. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We will design a set of rituals for each. The morning ritual, which is the act of sowing. The daily disciplines, which are the act of tending. And the evening reflection, which is the act of harvesting the lessons to enrich the soil for tomorrow. Let us begin with the most critical part of the entire day, the morning ritual. The art of winning the day before it ever truly begins. The first hour of your day is the rudder of the ship. The way you spend that first hour will determine the direction and the quality of the next 23. And here is the great mistake that almost everyone makes. They begin their day in a state of defense, a state of reaction. The jarring sound of the alarm clock is the first signal of stress. And what is the very next action? They reach for their phone, and in that one simple, unconscious act, they have invited the chaos of the entire world into their mind before their feet have even touched the floor. They are immediately bombarded with a flood of emails, notifications, bad news, social media comparisons, and the urgent demands of others. They begin their day not from a place of peace and intention, but from a place of anxiety and obligation. They have handed the steering wheel of their day over to the world before they have even had a chance to check their own map. You must, if you are serious about this journey, choose to be different. You must create a sacred space in the morning, a power hour as some call it. A period of time, whether it is 15 minutes or 2 hours, that belongs to you and you alone. A time to sow the seeds of peace, clarity, and purpose before you go out to tend the fields of your life. This morning ritual is the foundation of an unshakable day. Let us construct it pillar by pillar. The first act is physical awakening. Before you feed the mind, you must honor the body. Before you reach for your phone, reach for a glass of water. Your body has been dehydrating for 8 hours. Water is the spark that awakens your systems. And then move. It does not have to be a grueling workout. A simple 5 minutes of stretching, of reaching for the sky, of greeting the day with your body. This simple act releases the stiffness of the night and sends a signal of vitality to your entire being. The second act is mental centering. This is where you practice the discipline of stillness we spoke of earlier. This is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Just 10 minutes of silence, of meditation, of deep conscious breathing. You are not trying to stop your thoughts. You are simply calibrating your inner compass. You are finding your center before the inevitable storms of the day try to blow you off course. This daily practice of finding your inner quiet builds a reservoir of peace that you can draw upon throughout the day. The third act is emotional alignment. This is where you practice the discipline of journaling. This is the act of consciously sowing the right emotional seeds for the day. It has two parts. First, gratitude. You write down 3 specific things you are grateful for. This is a powerful act of mental alchemy. It trains your mind to scan for the good, to focus on abundance, to begin the day from a place of fullness, not a place of lack. A grateful mind cannot be a fearful mind. Second, intention. You write down your 1, 2, or 3 most important priorities for the day, your most important tasks. This is you, the wise adult, giving clear instructions for the day. It provides clarity. It prevents you from being pulled in 1,000 different directions by the urgent but unimportant demands of others. The fourth and final act of the morning ritual is intellectual fueling. The old saying is true, leaders are readers. You must make it a non-negotiable habit to feed your mind with powerful, uplifting, and educational material for at least 15 minutes every morning. Read a chapter from a great book. Read a biography. Read philosophy. By doing this, you are starting your day with the voice of greatness in your head, not the voice of chaos from the news. Hydrate and move. Center your mind. Align your emotions. Fuel your intellect. This is the power hour. This is the act of sowing. If you do this one thing, if you win this first hour, you will find that the rest of the day unfolds with a grace and an effectiveness that will astound you. Now we move to the middle part of our architecture, the daily disciplines. The art of tending the garden throughout the day. A powerful morning ritual gives you incredible momentum, but momentum can be lost if it is not sustained by conscious effort throughout the day. The weeds of stress, distraction, and negativity will constantly try to creep back into your garden. The daily disciplines are the small, consistent acts of weeding and watering that keep your garden flourishing. The first is the discipline of the anchor breath, as we have discussed. Your breath is your tool for instant course correction. Throughout the day, you must practice the habit of checking in with it. Use triggers, the red light, the doorway, the moment before a phone call. Each time you take one conscious, deep breath, this is the simple act of pulling a small weed of stress before it has a chance to grow and take root. It is the constant act of returning to your center, again and again and again. The second is the discipline of the midday reset. Sometime around the middle of the day, our energy naturally wanes. Stress begins to accumulate. Most people push through, fueled by caffeine and willpower, and end their day in a state of exhaustion. The wise gardener takes a break. Step away from your work, even for just 10 minutes. Go for a brisk walk, preferably outside in nature. This is not idle time. This is a strategic reset. The movement releases the physical tension that has built up in your body. The change of scenery clears your mind. You will return to your work not with less energy, but with a renewed sense of focus and clarity. The third is the discipline of the inner gardener. This is the active in the moment practice of reframing. Throughout your day, you will face annoyances, setbacks, and frustrations. The child within will scream that it is a problem or unfair. In these moments, you, the adult, the master gardener, must step in. You must consciously pull the weed of a negative thought and immediately plant the seed of an empowering one. This is not a problem, it is a challenge. This is not a setback, it is a lesson. This person is not attacking me. They are simply having a difficult day. This is the constant, moment-to-moment work of tending the soil of your mind. And now we arrive at the final part of our daily architecture, the evening reflection, the art of harvesting the lessons of the day. The way you end your day is just as important as the way you begin it. It determines the quality of your rest, your recovery, and sets the stage for the next morning. And here is the mistake most people make. They end their day in a state of passive distraction. They collapse in front of the television. They scroll endlessly through their phones, filling their minds with more noise and stimulation. They carry the stress and the unfinished business of the day with them to bed, and they wonder why they cannot sleep. You must design an evening ritual that provides closure, that harvests wisdom, and that prepares you for a night of deep, restorative rest. The first act of this ritual is the digital sunset. You must, at least 1 hour before you intend to sleep, declare an end to your engagement with screens, your phone, your computer, your television. The blue light from these devices disrupts your body's natural sleep cycle. But more importantly, the constant stream of information keeps your mind in a state of agitated arousal. You must give your mind a chance to power down, to find stillness. The second act is the daily harvest. This is where you return to your journal. This is not the time for planning. This is the time for reflection. You ask yourself 3 simple, powerful questions. First, what went well today? Or what am I proud of? This is an act of acknowledging your wins, no matter how small. It trains your brain to recognize your own progress and builds self-respect. Second, what did I learn today? This is where you extract the wisdom from the day's challenges. You turn every experience, good or bad, into a valuable lesson that makes you wiser for tomorrow. Third, how could I have made today even better? This is not about self-criticism. This is about gentle, honest self-assessment. It is the key to constant and never-ending improvement. The final act of the day is the preparation for dawn. Before you conclude your evening, you take 5 minutes to prepare for the morning. You lay out your clothes for the next day. You write down your top 3 priorities so they are waiting for you when you wake up. This simple act of preparation removes friction. It allows you to wake up and flow directly into your power hour with clarity and ease, rather than waking up to a series of decisions and confusions. This, my friends, is the architecture of an unshakable day. The morning sowing, the daily tending, the evening harvest. Does it require discipline? Of course. Does it require effort? Yes. But let me ask you, what is the alternative? A life of chaos? A life of reaction? A life of being a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the winds of circumstance? These habits are the small hinges that swing the great doors of your destiny. They seem insignificant on any given day. To skip one meditation, to forget one journal entry, it seems like no big deal. But compounded over a week, a month, a year, a lifetime, the difference is everything. It is the difference between a life of quiet desperation and a life of unshakable peace and profound accomplishment. And when you build this architecture of habits, you are doing more than just preparing for a normal day. You are forging the strength, you are building the character, and you are honing the discipline you will need for the most difficult days. You are training for the test. And this brings us to the moment of truth. How do you apply all of this strength, all of this philosophy, when you find yourself in the very heart of a high-stress situation? We've covered some powerful ground so far. We've talked about understanding your mind, controlling your emotions, and building the daily habits that create an unshakable foundation. And if these ideas are resonating with you, if you are committed to the journey of personal development and mastering your own mind, then I invite you to become a part of this community. Take a moment right now to subscribe to this channel. By doing so, you are not just clicking a button, you are making a declaration to yourself. A declaration that you are serious about your growth. A declaration that you are ready to become the architect of your own life. Subscribe now, and let's continue this journey together. Let's move on to how you apply these principles when the pressure is at its highest. And so, we arrive at the moment of truth. For weeks, for months, for years, you have been engaged in the noble work of self-creation. You have diligently sown the seeds of powerful daily habits. You have built the architecture of an unshakable day. You have trained in your inner gymnasium. You have guarded the gates of your mental garden. You have learned the philosophies of the wise. Why? Let me assure you, you have not been doing this work for the calm days. You have not been training for the times when the sun is shining and the sea is still. Anyone can look like a master sailor in a calm sea. No, you have been training for this day. The day the storm hits, the day the test arrives, unannounced and unwelcome. The day life looks you in the eye and asks, let's see what you are truly made of. For life, in its infinite wisdom, is a series of tests. Some are small quizzes, the traffic jam, the difficult client, the minor disappointment. But sooner or later, life will present you with a final exam, a sudden crisis, a devastating setback, a moment of intense, overwhelming pressure that threatens to capsize your entire ship. In these moments, here is a truth you must understand. You do not rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. Character is not built in a crisis. It is revealed. The person you are in that moment is the person you have been building habit by habit in all the quiet days that came before. The work you have done is the foundation that will either hold firm or crumble under the weight of the test. So, what do we do when that moment arrives? When the phone rings with terrible news? When the market crashes? When the argument erupts? When the tiger alarm of your ancient brain is screaming at full volume? The untrained person is immediately swept away by the current. They are hijacked by the raw emotion of the child within. They react, they panic, they lash out, or they freeze. They become a victim of the moment. But not you, not anymore, because you have been training, and your training has prepared you to execute a clear, calm, and deliberate protocol, a procedure for panic, a fire drill for the mind. Today, we will install this protocol, a 5-step emergency operating procedure for maintaining composure and clarity in the very heart of the storm. Before we detail the steps, we must first understand the anatomy of the crisis moment. When a high-stress event occurs, 2 things happen simultaneously. First, your body is flooded with the physiology of panic, the adrenaline, the cortisol, the racing heart, the shallow breath. Second, your mind experiences what is known as perceptual narrowing. Your focus collapses. All you can see is the threat. The problem fills your entire field of vision. Your ability to think rationally, to see options, to access your wisdom evaporates. Your mind becomes a house on fire. The mistake most people make is that they run into the burning house and begin screaming. They throw the fuel of panic thoughts onto the flames. Our protocol is designed to do the opposite. It is the procedure of the calm, professional firefighter who arrives on the scene and, before doing anything else, follows a clear, life-saving process. Here is that process. It is the protocol your training has prepared you for. The first step, the most critical, the move that makes all other moves possible, is the sacred pause. The first move is to not move. The first action is inaction. The moment of impact, the moment you receive the shocking news, the moment the crisis erupts, your every instinct, wired into you over millions of years of evolution, will scream at you to react immediately, to say something, to do something, to run, to fight. You must, with all the discipline you have cultivated, defy that instinct. Because in a crisis, your first impulse is almost always wrong. It is the voice of the ancient, panicked child, not the calm, wise adult. To act on that first impulse is to give control of your ship to the most terrified member of the crew. So, what do? Your only job in the first 5 seconds of a crisis is to execute the first discipline we mastered. Your only job is to breathe. Before you utter a single word, before you make a single decision, you will take 3 slow, conscious, deep breaths. Let us practice this now. Imagine the moment, the impact. Now breathe with me. 1, a deep inhale, a slow exhale. You are creating a space. 2, a deep inhale, a slow exhale. You are interrupting the panic circuit. 3, a deep inhale, a slow exhale. You are calling the adult back to the command center. This is not a passive act. This is a profound act of defiance against the tyranny of panic. Each breath is a declaration that you are in control, not the situation. In those few sacred seconds, you have created a buffer, a mote of calm between the event and your response. You have averted the crash. Now and only now are you ready for the second step. Step 2 is objective assessment. You must separate fact from fear. The mind in crisis is a master storyteller, and it only tells one kind of story, a horror story. It takes a single difficult fact and weaves around it a catastrophic narrative of ruin and despair. It exaggerates. It catastrophizes. Your job as the calm leader is to become a detective of reality. You must cut through the fog of fear and identify the cold, hard facts. You must ask yourself a series of clarifying questions. What do I know for an absolute fact to be true right now? Not what I fear, not what I assume, not what might happen, but what are the undeniable facts on the ground? What is the story I am telling myself about these facts? By seeing the story as a story, you separate yourself from it. You see that it is the creation of your mind, not a reflection of reality. On a scale of 1 to 10, how serious is this situation truly? This helps to right-size the problem. The child screams that every problem is a 10. The adult can see that most are a 3 or a 4. And you must use the powerful lens of time. Will this matter in 5 years? In 1 year? In 1 month? This question is a powerful antidote to the tyranny of the immediate. It shrinks the perceived size of the problem and reminds you that this moment too shall pass. You are moving from the role of the terrified actor in the drama to the calm, objective director observing the scene. You are draining the emotion out of the situation so you can see it with perfect clarity. This leads us to step 3, grounding in the present. You must find your anchor in the storm. A crisis has a powerful gravitational pull. It pulls your mind into one of 2 places: a terrifying imagined future filled with all the things that could go wrong, or a regretful, painful past filled with all the things you should have done differently. Both of these are phantom worlds. The only place you have any power is in the here and now. You must therefore deliberately anchor your mind in the present moment. The most effective way to do this is to pull your attention out of the abstract world of your thoughts and into the concrete world of your 5 senses. This is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique we have discussed, now deployed as a crisis management tool. You will right there in the middle of the chaos pause and mentally name 5 things you can see: the pen on your desk, the crack in the ceiling, the color of the carpet. 4 things you can physically feel: your feet on the floor, the chair supporting your back, the texture of your clothing, the air on your skin. 3 things you can hear: the hum of the computer, a distant siren, the sound of your own steady breathing. 2 things you can smell: the scent of coffee, the smell of the rain outside, and 1 thing you can taste. Why does this work so effectively? Because it is impossible for your brain to be focused on concrete sensory input and abstract worry at the exact same time. You are forcing a system reboot. You are breaking the spell of the panic spiral and pulling your mind back to the solid ground of reality. It is the mental equivalent of a ship dropping anchor in a storm to keep from being dashed against the rocks. Now that you are calm, clear, and present, you are ready for the 4th and most empowering step. Identify your point of control. You must find the rudder. In any crisis, there are 1,000 things you cannot control: the economy, the weather, the past, other people's reactions. The untrained mind, the mind of the victim, wastes 100% of its energy focusing on these things. It is a recipe for helplessness. The master, the student, the wise leader understands that their power lies in focusing exclusively on the few small things they can control. You must draw a circle in your mind. Inside that circle are the things you have direct influence over: your breath, your attitude, your perspective, your words, your actions. Outside that circle is everything else. Your job in a crisis is to ignore everything outside that circle and to pour every ounce of your focus and energy into what is inside it. You must ask the most powerful question of all. In this entire chaotic situation, what is the 1 thing or the few things I have direct and immediate control over right now? Perhaps the only thing you can control is your own breathing. Then that is where you put your focus. Perhaps the only thing you can control is the choice to not say something you will later regret. Then that is your victory. Perhaps the only thing you can control is the next question you ask. By focusing on what you can control, You move from a state of powerless victimhood to a state of profound centered power. You may not be able to control the storm, but you can always control the rudder of your own ship. And this leads naturally to the fifth and final step. Engage with the next right action. You must take one step. The feeling of being overwhelmed comes from trying to solve the entire complex problem all at once. The antidote to the paralysis of fear is a single, small, constructive action. You do not need to see the entire staircase to the top. You do not need to have the 10-step plan to solve the entire crisis. You only need to identify and execute the next right action. Not the next 10 actions, the next one. Not just any action, the next right action. The most strategic, constructive, and useful thing you can do in this immediate moment. What is it? Is it making a phone call? Is it gathering more information? Is it getting a glass of water? Is it simply choosing to be silent? Identify it. And then do it. That one small action breaks the spell of inertia. It creates momentum. It sends a powerful message to your brain that you are no longer helpless. You are in motion. You are a cause, not an effect. One right action, followed by another, is how all great crises are navigated and all great victories are won. This is the protocol, the 5 steps. Pause, assess, ground, control, act. This is the fire drill for your mind. It is a procedure you must practice in the small quizzes of life so that it becomes second nature during the final exams. A crisis does not build your character, it reveals it. The test is not a punishment. The storm is not your enemy. It is a final, magnificent opportunity to discover the unshakable strength, the profound peace, and the deep wisdom that you have so diligently built within yourself, one day, one habit, one breath at a time. And so we have arrived at the foundation. We have journeyed through the mind, the emotions, the breath, the power of perspective, the daily habits, and the protocol for crisis. We have assembled a remarkable toolkit for a remarkable life, but a collection of fine tools is worthless in the hands of someone who lacks the strength and the will to pick them up and use them day after day. A brilliant battle plan is just a piece of paper to an army that lacks the fortitude to execute it under fire. We have laid out the protocol for the crisis, but what is it that allows one person to pause while another panics? What is it that allows one person to breathe while another hyperventilates? What is it that allows one person to assess while another is swept away by assumption? The strength to execute the plan, the power to use the tools, the character to stand firm when the storm is raging, it all comes down to one single, ancient, and non-negotiable virtue. It is the bedrock upon which all success is built. It is the very material from which an unshakable life is forged. We must now talk about self-discipline. Now, for many, that word discipline lands with a thud. It feels heavy. It conjures up images of punishment, of restriction, of a life devoid of joy and spontaneity. We have come to see discipline as a chain that binds us. Today, I ask you to join me in a radical reimagining of this magnificent concept. For I am here to tell you that discipline is not a chain. Discipline is the key that unlocks the chains that already bind you. Discipline is not the wall of a prison. It is the scaffolding you use to build your palace. It is not the restriction of your freedom. It is the very definition of it. For what is true freedom? Is it the freedom to do whatever you feel like in the moment? Is it the freedom to follow every impulse, every whim, every craving? No, that is not freedom. That is slavery. It is slavery to the weakest, most short-sighted, most reactive part of yourself. It is slavery to the frantic child within. True freedom is the ability to choose your response. It is the ability to subordinate your present feelings to your future vision. It is the ability to give yourself a command and then follow it. It is the ability to consciously and deliberately choose the person you wish to become and then to do the things that person would do. That is the ultimate expression of personal sovereignty, and that is the very definition of self-discipline. Discipline is, in its purest form, an act of profound self-love. It is the act of loving your future self enough to do the difficult but necessary thing now. It is the adult within you making a wise investment in the health, the wealth, and the wisdom of the person you will be in 1 year, in 5 years, in a decade. But to truly grasp its importance, we must understand the great and inevitable choice that life presents to every single one of us. It is the choice between two pains. You see, we must all suffer from one of two pains in life, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is that the pain of discipline weighs ounces, while the pain of regret weighs tons. Let us look closely at the pain of discipline. What is it? It is the discomfort of waking up an hour earlier to work on your goals. It is the ache in your muscles after a workout. It is the difficulty of making the sales call you were afraid to make. It is the strain of holding your tongue when you are tempted to speak in anger. It is the small sacrifice of saying no to a temporary pleasure in service of a long-term ambition. This pain, it is real, but it is a constructive pain. It is a purposeful pain. It is the pain of growth. It is temporary. It is light. As my friend the great bodybuilder used to say, it is the pain that feels good. It is the pain that leaves you stronger, healthier, wealthier, and wiser. It weighs ounces. And then there is the other pain, the pain of regret. This pain is a different animal altogether. It is the pain of looking back on your life and knowing you did not give it your all. It is the haunting knowledge of your own unfulfilled potential. It is the memory of the opportunities you were too afraid to seize. It is the agony of the words of love you were too proud to say. It is the hollow ache of a life half-lived, of a song left unsung within you. This pain, my friends, this pain is a ghost that will follow you to your grave. It is heavy. It is destructive. It is permanent. It weighs tons. And so, here is the choice presented to you every single day in 1,000 different moments. Which pain will you choose? The ounces of discipline or the tons of regret? The wise person, the person building an unshakable life, understands this choice, and they choose to bear the light, temporary, and constructive weight of discipline so that they may live a life free from the crushing, permanent, and destructive weight of regret. So how do we practice this? Where do we apply this foundational virtue? Discipline is not one single thing. It is a quality of character that must be applied across the great arenas of your life. The first arena is the discipline of thought. We have spoken of the mind as a garden. Discipline is the act of being the relentless gardener. It is the discipline to stand guard at the gate of your mind and to refuse entry to the seeds of negativity, of cynicism, of fear. And when those weeds inevitably sprout from within the thoughts of self-doubt, of worry, of resentment, it is the discipline to consciously and immediately pull them and to plant in their place a thought of strength, of gratitude, of possibility. This is not easy. It is work. It is the constant, moment-to-moment work of choosing your inner dialogue. The second arena is the discipline of emotion. This is the discipline to practice the sacred pause. It is the discipline to not let the frantic child drive the car. When you are provoked, it is the discipline to breathe instead of reacting. When you are disappointed, it is the discipline to seek the lesson instead of wallowing in self-pity. When you are afraid, it is the discipline to take the next right action anyway. Emotional control is not a passive state. It is an active choice, reinforced by the iron will of self-discipline. It is the strength that makes the 5-step crisis protocol possible. The third arena, and this is where the theory truly meets the pavement, is the discipline of action. It is the discipline to conquer the monster of procrastination. It is the art of doing the thing you know you should do, when you know you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. The amateur waits for inspiration to strike. The professional knows that action is the precursor to inspiration. The amateur works hard when they feel motivated. The professional adheres to the schedule, knowing that their feelings are irrelevant to the task at hand. Think of the marathon runner. Does she only train on the days when the sun is shining and she feels magnificent? No. She trains on the cold days, the rainy days, the days she is tired, the days she is sore, because she knows that her victory on race day is not won on race day. It is won in the 1,000 small, disciplined training sessions that came before. You must bring that same professional athlete's mindset to the project of your own life. The fourth arena is the discipline of commitment. This is the discipline of keeping the promises you make to yourself. This may be the most important of all. For the foundation of all success, all self-esteem, all character is this: do you trust yourself? When you tell yourself you are going to wake up at 6 a.m. and the alarm goes off and you hit the snooze button, you have just broken a promise to the most important person in your life. It seems like a small thing, but it is a crack in your foundation. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your self-trust. You teach yourself that your own word is not credible. Conversely, every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you do the workout you said you would do, read the chapter you said you would read, make the call you said you would make, you are forging your character in steel. You are building self-respect. You are building self-trust. And a person with unshakable self-trust is a person who can walk through the fires of life without being burned. The fifth and final arena is the discipline of health. You must discipline your diet. You must discipline your rest. For your body and your mind are not separate entities. They are the integrated system of you. To neglect your physical health is to guarantee the eventual decline of your mental clarity and your emotional stability. The discipline to choose nourishing food over convenient junk. The discipline to get 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep instead of 1 more hour of mindless entertainment. The discipline to move your body every single day. These are not acts of vanity. They are acts of profound wisdom. They are the acts of a person who understands that a well cared for body is the necessary vessel for a powerful and unshakable mind. Thought, emotion, action, commitment, health, these are the arenas. And you must understand the miracle of how discipline works. It is not about one single heroic act of willpower. It is about the compounding effect of 1,000 small daily choices. Think of building a great wall. If you look at the entire wall, the task seems impossible, but the wall is not built all at once. It is built one single brick at a time. Each brick is insignificant. But the discipline of laying one brick perfectly, every single day, consistently, without fail, that is what builds a structure that can last for 1,000 years and withstand any storm. Your daily disciplines are those bricks. Today's workout is one brick. Today's chapter is one brick. Today's meditation is one brick. Today's kept promise is one brick. On its own, it seems like nothing. But compounded over time, you are building a fortress of character so strong, so resilient, that you become truly, unshakably powerful. Discipline is the bridge. On one side of the chasm is where you are now. On the other side is the person you wish to become, the goals you wish to achieve, the life you wish to live. Your philosophy is the blueprint for the bridge. Your goals are the destination. But self-discipline, consistent, daily, unrelenting self-discipline, is the very material and the labor that builds the bridge, girder by girder, plank by plank, allowing you to walk from the barren land of mediocrity to the fertile ground of success. So I ask you to make a new commitment today, a commitment to this misunderstood, magnificent virtue. Start small. Win one small victory today. Keep one small promise to yourself. Lay one perfect brick, for it is in these small daily acts of personal power that a great life, an unshakable life, is forged. And when you build your life upon this bedrock of self-discipline, you are no longer just surviving life's tests. You are positioning yourself to truly thrive within them. You are preparing not just to weather the storms, but to use their winds to sail further. And this brings us to the final and most magnificent stage of our journey, learning to thrive through life's inevitable winters. And so here we are, at the end of our journey together and at the beginning of yours. We have traveled from the deepest, most ancient corridors of the human mind to the practical, daily architecture of an unshakable life. We have stood firm on the bedrock of self-discipline. We have learned to be the calm, professional firefighter in the burning house of a crisis. We have done all this work. We have gathered all these tools. We have learned all these philosophies. But to what end? Why? Why do we seek to build this inner fortress? Why do we commit to this difficult, often lonely, work of self-mastery? It is not to hide from life. It is not to build a wall so high that we are untouched by the world. No, the purpose of all this strength is not to avoid the storms. The purpose of all this strength is to be able to stand in the heart of the fiercest storm imaginable, look it in the eye, and not be shaken. It is to learn not merely to survive the challenges of life, but to thrive because of them. To grow stronger, wiser, and more magnificent because the winds have blown. This requires one final, grand shift in our philosophy. It requires us to understand the rhythm of life itself. We must learn to see our lives not as a single linear path, but as a series of repeating, predictable, and profoundly meaningful cycles. We must understand the timeless and unchangeable law of the seasons of life. This, my friends, is the master key. It is the philosophy that unlocks the meaning behind everything we have learned. Look outside. Look at the world of nature. It operates on a simple, powerful, and inescapable rhythm. There is the spring, a time of bursting life and furious opportunity. There is the summer, a time of intense heat and diligent cultivation. There is the autumn, a time of harvest and reward. And then there is the winter, a time of cold, of dormancy, of apparent death. And just as this law governs the natural world, it governs the world of your life, your career, your finances, your relationships, your spiritual journey. They all pass through these same 4 seasons. Here is the first and most important truth of this law. You cannot change the seasons. You cannot negotiate with winter. You cannot reason with summer. They will arrive in their own time, regardless of your preferences or your plans. And here's the second great truth. But you can change yourself. This is the essence of all personal responsibility. This is where your power truly lies. The foolish person spends their life complaining about the seasons. They curse the winter cold. They complain about the summer heat. The wise person accepts the reality of the seasons and instead focuses on becoming a person who can handle them all. A person who has learned to plant in the spring, to cultivate in the summer, to reap in the autumn, and to grow strong and wise in the winter. The purpose of everything we have discussed, every tool, every habit, every discipline, is to make you a master of the seasons. Let us then take a final walk through the 4 great seasons of life and understand how to not just survive them, but to thrive within them. First, there is the inevitable, the unavoidable, the winter. This is the season of adversity. This is the storm. It is the time of disappointment, of loneliness, of loss. It is the time when the phone rings with bad news, when the business deal falls through, when the relationship ends, when your health fails, when the economy turns against you. It is the time when the ground is frozen and the sky is gray. And here is the law. Winter always comes for everyone. No amount of positive thinking can prevent the arrival of winter. To be surprised by winter is a form of naivete we can no longer afford. The foolish person, when winter arrives, is caught unprepared. They have no food stored, no shelter built. They freeze, they break, they curse their luck and believe that the cold will last forever. But the wise person, the unshakable person, understands winter. They expect it. They have prepared for it, and they know what to do within it. What do you do in the winter of your life? First, you endure. You survive. This is when you rely on the bedrock of your self-discipline, the virtue we have just explored. This is when you execute the 5-step crisis protocol, not with panic, but with the calm confidence of a trained professional. This is when you use your breath to anchor yourself in the storm. But winter is not just a time for survival. It is a time of profound and necessary introspection. It is a time to go within. It is the season to read the books, to reflect in your journal, to study. It is the time to ask the deep questions. What can I learn from this? How can this adversity make me stronger? What weaknesses has this winter revealed in my foundation that I must now repair? Winter is the season that builds your roots. You do not grow taller in winter, but you can grow deeper. It is the season that forges character in the cold fires of hardship. You do not complain about the winter. You use the winter. You learn from the winter. And you do so with the unshakable faith in the next great law, that after every winter there is always and without fail a spring. This is the season of opportunity, the season of rebirth. The ice begins to thaw, the ground softens, and the world is once again filled with the possibility of new life. This is the phone call you didn't expect, the new idea that ignites your imagination, the new relationship that offers hope, the new chance to begin again. And here is the law. Spring always follows winter. This is the philosophy of hope, the ultimate refrain. No matter how long, how cold, or how dark the winter, you must hold on to the certainty that spring will come. But spring is also a season of great urgency. It is a fleeting window of opportunity. The soil is fertile, but it will not stay that way forever. What do you do in the spring of your life? You act, you plant. You take all the wisdom you gained in the winter, all the plans you made in the quiet cold, and you translate them into vigorous, massive, and immediate action. You take the new habits you have designed and you sow them with relentless consistency. You take the new perspective you have forged and you apply it to every opportunity that presents itself. The greatest sin one can commit in the spring is idleness. To let a spring season pass without planting your seeds is a form of tragedy from which your life may never recover. You must seize the day. You must work with an intensity that matches the opportunity of the season. For the work of the spring leads inevitably to the summer. The summer is the season of cultivation. It is a time of intense, demanding, and relentless effort. The seeds you planted in the spring have now sprouted, but they are young, they are vulnerable, and the summer presents a dual challenge. On one hand, you must nourish and protect your new growth. You must water your crops. You must pour your energy, your focus, and your passion into the projects, the relationships, and the goals you started in the spring. But on the other hand, the summer is also the time when the weeds grow fastest. The weeds of doubt, the weeds of distraction, the weeds of complacency, the negative influences of others who are threatened by your growth. What do you do in the summer of your life? You work. You tend to your garden with the fierce protectiveness of a master. This is where you apply the discipline of guarding your environment. You pull the weeds of negative association. You protect your young ambitions from the scorching heat of cynicism. You practice the daily mental training that keeps your own resolve strong and your focus clear. The summer is a test of your fortitude. It is a test of your commitment. Many people do the exciting work of spring, but they lack the discipline to endure the long, hot, demanding work of summer. But the unshakable person understands that summer is where the potential of spring is forged into the reality of autumn. And so we arrive at the autumn. The autumn is the season of harvest. It is the day of reckoning. It is the time when you go out into the fields of your life and you reap the results of your efforts. And here is the law of autumn. It is honest. It never lies. The autumn will give you back exactly what you have put in. It is the great audit of your life. If you were diligent in the spring and you worked hard through the summer, the autumn will be a time of magnificent bounty, of celebration, of abundance. It is the successful business, the strong relationship, the healthy body, the fulfilled spirit. But if you were idle in the spring and you were distracted in the summer, the autumn will be a time of meager results. It will be a time of disappointment and explanation. What do you do in the autumn of your life? First, you take full and complete responsibility for your harvest. Whatever it is, you do not apologize for a magnificent harvest. You celebrate it with gratitude. And you do not complain about a poor harvest. You accept it as the honest feedback from life, and you resolve to learn the lesson for the next season. And second, you must be wise. As you enjoy the rewards of your autumn, the wise person always remembers one thing: winter is coming. And so they take a portion of their harvest, a portion of their success, their wealth, their wisdom, and they store it, they save, they invest, they prepare, so that when the next inevitable winter arrives, they will face it not with fear, but with even greater strength and resources than before. This is the cycle. This is the rhythm of an unshakable life. To grow strong in the winter, to plant in the spring, to cultivate in the summer, to reap in the autumn, and to begin again, wiser, stronger, and better than before. This is the great synthesis of everything we have learned. The self-discipline you forge is the strength that gets you through the winter. The crisis protocol you master is the plan you execute in the winter storms. The habits you build are the seeds you plant in the spring. The environment you curate is the fence you build around your garden in the summer. The mental training you practice is the work of tending and cultivating in the summer sun. The power to reframe is what allows you to see every season as a gift. The control of your breath and your emotions is what keeps you steady, no matter the season. And the understanding of your ancient mind is what allows you to rise above the instinct to fear the changing weather. Life will always bring its seasons. You cannot control them, but you can become the master of your response to them. You are the gardener. You are the sailor. You are the architect of your own soul. So I leave you with this final charge. Do not wish for a life without winters. Wish for the wisdom to grow stronger within them. Do not wish for a life without the demanding work of summer. Wish for the strength to endure it. Do not just hope for a great harvest in autumn. Commit to the daily disciplines that guarantee it. This is not just the key to survival. This is the key to thriving. This is the art of living a magnificent life. This is the path to becoming truly, finally, and completely unshakable. Life is unpredictable. The winds will blow. The storms will rage. But the difference between those who are tossed about and those who reach their destination is not the absence of difficulty, but the mastery of their own mind. Throughout our time together today, we have explored the powerful philosophies and strategies needed to train your mind to stay calm in every situation. We have learned to understand the mind under pressure. We have discussed the art of emotional control, the power of the breath, and the discipline of reframing challenges. We have seen how daily habits, a supportive environment, and radical self-discipline create the unshakable foundation of a well-lived life. And most importantly, we have discovered that thriving through life's storms is a choice. A choice to respond rather than react. A choice to take control rather than be controlled. But here is the final and most important truth. Knowing these strategies is not enough. Information alone does not create change. Consistent action does. If you want to develop unshakable calmness, you must commit to the daily practice of training your mind. Just as physical strength is built through small, consistent efforts over time, so too is mental strength. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you take control of your breath, every time you choose to see a lesson in a setback, you are casting a vote for a stronger, calmer, more powerful version of yourself. Imagine that version of you, a person who does not panic, who is not overwhelmed by stress, who remains steady and centered and wise in the face of any adversity. That version of you is not a distant dream. It is the natural result of the choices you make starting today. You are in control. You are in control of your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions. No one can take that power from you. So start now. Pick just one strategy from our discussion today, one habit, and commit to practicing it daily. The world will always be chaotic, but you do not have to be. Train your mind. Build your resilience. Set your sail. And no matter what storms may come, you will not be shaken. You will rise. You will endure. And you will arrive at the destination of your own choosing. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this message has served you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And be sure you are subscribed for more content on building a life of success, happiness, and meaning. Until next time, take charge and design your life